Good evening and welcome to the City Council Special Study Session of January 9th, 2018. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt. Here. Councilmember Leone. Here. Council Liaison Acosta. Here. Council Liaison Gidrist.
Here.
Thank you. We have one item on our agenda this evening, and that is Streets Pavement Management Program. I'll turn that over to City Manager Jeff Tyne.
Great, thank you, Mayor, and hello, everyone. So, as you know, we're trying to use these study sessions really to discuss in more detail some of the more significant policy and operational issues that we have at the city, and more specifically, try to follow up on items that were brought forward by the City Council in their strategic sessions. Today, we wanted to take on one of those that you had brought to our attention, and that was to discuss our street maintenance system. The council has discussed both in budget discussions and our strategic sessions, really an interest in the staff to delve more into the policy and budget considerations of our street maintenance program. This is a significant operation. So this is about $10 million a year annually that we're putting into things. Street rehab programs, our pavement maintenance programs, sealing programs, a number of different aspects like that. In using these funds, really it's important to have a thoughtful pavement management strategy so that we make sure, of course, that we're maintaining what we believe is a very good, strong level of service with our pavement, but also optimizing our dollars. And that's a lot of what we wanted to talk about tonight, was talk a little bit about what are the way that we look at it, the approach and philosophy we have, what are the systems and processes that we have, observations that we have. But it is important to note this is really meant to be an interactive discussion. We would like to have your feedback on all of this about what you're seeing, what are your concerns within your district, what is our approach, timing, and we will go into that specifically. So with that, I did want to introduce, so we have Stuart Kent, our Public Works Director, as well as Janet Ramsey, our Streets Manager, who will do the presentation. Again, similar to kind of the last presentation, we can expect Janet will do much of the heavy lifting tonight. Stuart will do the color commentary. But if we really do encourage your questions and feedback throughout the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Tyne. Mayor and Council, good evening. Today, as Jeff just alluded to, Janet Ramsey, our Street Manager, and I'll give you an update on our pavement management program. In order to let you know, we're going to touch on a number of things. We'll share with you the pavement condition assessment that was recently completed by a contractor that essentially is an x-ray of the street system for the city of Peoria, measuring not only the surface of the road, but also the underlying subgrade, which is equally important, because if the subgrade is going to fail, then the surface will fail, immediately with it. The assessment tool is something that we plan to do every 3 years. And is planned in the capital program accordingly to provide an objective review of our pavement condition. Historically, we had staff who did an assessment every 3 years, but just like anything, it's a subjective review when different folks are looking at the pavement. When you have an objective review of a machine sort of giving you data, you get a much better sense of what exactly is there. I'm also pleased to report that the overall condition of our street network is categorized as very good currently, and we expect to continue to keep it at that level. We'll also take a little time to share some examples of various conditions of pavement. As Mr. Tyne alluded to, sort of give you all sort of a Streets 101 when you see a cracked street, and not all cracked streets are the same. Some are very serious, some are much more minor. But we're going to give you examples and give you some range of costs, what it is to fix those kinds of things. So you can get a sense of that, and then ultimately, and more equally important, our residents can get a sense of that, because we plan to put this entire report also online for the residents to be able to download and look at. So they can look at their own street, they can look at the executive summary you have, and try to become better informed about their infrastructure. Towards the end of the presentation, we will provide information on our updated and planned activities, including the current fiscal year work and the next 4 fiscal years. I would caution that, like anything, planned activities are just that, planned. While we have finished about 75 or 80% of FY18's work already, and we feel very confident about what we're going to be doing in FY19. 20 through 23 is always going to be subject to a number of things, not the least of which is rising costs, potentially conflicts with any other construction work that may be occurring either by our own crews or other external agencies, as well as making sure that the streets that we've tentatively identified for those years are in fact the right streets to be treating when we get to that point in time. But we wanted to give you a context of that so you could see sort of what neighborhoods and how much work will be done over the next 5 years. Finally, I'd like to really sort of emphasize one concept for today, and that is pavement management strategies are not really based on a worst is first scenario. I think it's very easy for everybody to fall into that sort of trap that, well, this is the worst street, we should do this one first. The reality is you want to make, the goal is to have the right treatment on the right street at the right time. And that streets in the worst condition may be candidates for a full reconstruction, but that costs maybe 10 times what you could do 10 more miles of other streets with lesser treatments that will keep them at a good level. So it's always a balance. You're trying to make sure that the part of your system that is the weakest doesn't get worse, but that the good part of your system also doesn't start to slide, because once it starts to slide, it starts costing more. This is very akin to owning a vehicle. If you spend the money on the front end doing things like oil changes and checking your belts and checking your filters and doing those things, that engine will run a long time. Folks that tend to ignore those things tend to have engine replacements, tend to have much more expensive automobile bills later. And really, pavement is very much the same thing. We want to do those treatments appropriately and early on so we can catch the system while things are still in good shape. Yeah.
Excuse me. Councilmember Hunt?
Yes, may I ask a question then?
Certainly.
When does the really wretched street then, where does it fit in then? I understand the concept, but when does that one get fixed if it was overlooked for all these others?
Right. Mayor, Councilmember Hunt, I think currently our streets that are sort of really in a reconstruction phase right now are less than 1% of all our streets. We're talking about 6 miles out of roughly 630. So it's a very small number. Nonetheless, if you live on that street or nearby it, that's your number one priority. And we absolutely understand that. So I think as we go through this processing and going forward, we want to make sure we find that right balance of doing that sort of much more expensive reinvestment when it needs to be done, and also recognizing that when a street's sort of past the point of no return, and I'm trying not to be dismissive when I say that, it's not going to get worse. We're going to make sure the street's safe. In other words, driving on it's going to be our first and highest priority, that people using that street can feel safe using it. But we also recognize there's an inherent value that people feel a sense of community pride when the street in front of their home, in front of their business, represents the nature of their pride in their community. So that's always going to be a balance. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule of for every 10 or 50 or 100 miles of one treatment, we then do another, but we are going to always keep an eye on it because we don't want that number getting high. And as we'll go through in the presentation today, the national average for streets needing that sort of reconstruction is 10%. So ours being at 1% is a very low number, but nonetheless, it's still 1%. And we certainly recognize that means something, particularly to those folks who live right there and use it. Lastly, we wanted to make sure to highlight that recognizing the mayor and council's ongoing goals and city council goals of, supporting a built and natural environment, that really street maintenance and all the effort that goes into that, ultimately including the repair of the sidewalks and everything else, and the appurtenances to the street, is all part of that. And we recognize that while sometimes is sort of overlooked by the public as an issue, we recognize it's really intrinsic to everything else we do as a community, to having a good infrastructure base. So we just wanted to highlight that. With that, I'll turn over, as Jeff sort of alluded to, the majority of the presentation and the play-by-play call, if you will, to Janet Ramsey, our streets manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and Mr. Tyne. Thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and discuss one of my favorite subjects. I hope to talk to you a little bit about pavement management, not just the highlights of our program, but also some of the goals and objectives of a pavement management program, some of the strategies that we use to attain our goals and objectives, and some of the performance measures that we deploy to ensure that we're meeting those goals and objectives. As Stuart said, pavement management is definitely more complicated than doing the oldest or the worst first. Payments wear at different rates depending upon factors from their quality of the original construction to utility impacts, and especially daily traffic loads, new development, those kinds of things. So for those reasons, we have to track the life cycle of each segment to determine the best strategy for maintaining overall network in the best possible conditions within our allocated resources. By far, the most successful strategy we employ is early preventive maintenance or pavement preservation. We approach pavement on a life cycle basis. So you see in this slide here, we've indicated that essentially a road built today would last about 20 years if untouched. But by doing some pavement preservation in the intervening years, we can bump that life cycle back up even multiple times. Those treatments are very inexpensive on the relative scale, and they can have a great impact on the longevity. So overall, our life cycle goal becomes 50 years for a pavement in the city of Peoria. Okay. A program of pavement management requires an accurate inventory, first of all, and a current condition rating of every street in the city. So as Stuart also mentioned to you, in FY17, we were allocated funding to commission an electronic data collection to verify our inventory and provide this electronic assessment of every segment of road. Our contractor and consultant was IMS. That's a company that's used extensively throughout the United States, and they have a great deal of experience with pavement management, so they were an excellent consultant for us. The advantages to the electronic assessment and data collection include the consistent application of objective criteria and the use of a complex system of lasers and cameras to evaluate the pavement surface and even to some extent under the surface. The data provided on pavement conditions is converted to a numerical factor that's entered into our pavement management software, and that data allows us to validate our strategies and do some forecasts moving forward for plans and future projects.
How long does it usually take for that vehicle to process the information that it's collecting from the street?
Well, there are multiple steps in that process, but the process of driving the vehicle actually took just a few weeks. But then they have multiple data from multiple resources. So it was lasers, it was cameras, it was multiple cameras, and I wouldn't even begin to tell you that I understood all of that formula, but those results are then programmed into numerical data through their system, and they give that numerical data to us. So it's a bit more comprehensive than what an inspector could do, for example, who can just see the surface. Those lasers and cameras can actually see to some degree, as Stuart mentioned, under the surface, and they can begin to tell us what's going on under the road. Okay. The IMS survey provided us with a pavement condition rating, we call it a PCI, for each segment of road as well as a network average. So PCI is just like in school, 0 is failing and 100 is perfect. Having a consistently rated PCI allows us to track the success of our program, validate our strategies, benchmark our rating with other cities, and track deterioration rates based upon our program and our unique conditions. And if a picture's worth 1,000 words, these are some great photos, typical conditions that represent the PCI ranges that we talk about. So, for example, on the left, an 85 to 100 is considered to be very good or excellent pavement. The life cycle of this pavement will be extended by applying a seal coat or slurry seal. That's that early pavement preservation that I was just talking about. In the middle photo, a 70 to an 85 is considered to be good to very good. Cracks are visible, but they're mostly sealed, and there may be utility patches or some other worn areas, but this pavement will benefit from a slurry or a micro seal, again, pavement preservation. The goal is to retain the good condition for as long as possible. At a 60 to 70 on the right, by this time there's some visible wear, but the overall condition is still good, and the cost to repair is still relatively low.
Mayor and Council, just real quickly, as Janet's alluded to as we go through the next 3 slides, I just wanted to touch on and sort of reemphasize that pavement is naturally going to crack. We've got sandy soils through much of this community and much of this region, and asphalt is naturally going to crack. And I think many times when we get questions from the community about my pavement's cracked, it's as if it's going to swallow up the earth or something. And the reality is there are some cracks that are worse than others. And even the examples that Janet shown here, where in the middle picture you can see there's clearly some crack work that's been done. You can see there's a very large utility patch right there, which distinguishes right around that crack line area. And then you get to that next range where you can see more, what looks like more like sort of alligator cracking along that curb line, where you can see water and probably some other things have a chance to seep in. So there's a scale of this, and as we go to the next slide, and Janet's touch on it, we'll sort of show as it gets worse and what this means.
So on the left here, we have a 50 to 60, and as I mentioned earlier, Earlier in the life cycles, most of the work is done by contractors. So seal coats, slurry seals, they're accomplished by contractors. But later in the life cycle, this is where our team comes in a lot more often, and you'll see our team out doing patches, repairs, the things that they need to do to make sure that the road is safe and serviceable throughout the remainder of its life cycle. At a 50 to 60, the road is considered to be marginal to fair. This pavement will benefit from patch and repair work and a surface treatment such as slurry seal or microseal, but depending upon the structural analysis, that's the subgrade, a mill and overlay might be prescribed. Most roads in this condition or worse are in older areas and concrete may be worn and today's ADA standards may be lacking, so the additional costs of bringing curb, gutters, sidewalks, and ramps actually add up to 35 or 45% to those overall reconstruction costs. In the middle of the photo, at 40 to 50, pavement is considered to be marginal to fair, showing signs of weather and load damage. At this level, concrete upgrades and necessary rehabilitation work is estimated to be around $500,000 per mile. At the 0 to 40, over on the right, reconstruction is required. This condition is also referred to as a backlog. The good news is, as Stuart said already, there is less than 1% of our pavement that's in this condition, and in all cases, there are either plans to mediate or there are extenuating circumstances. For example, something where there's construction or development planned eminently, or something that's maybe a county, city situation that we haven't the authority to go in and take over. So there are some extenuating circumstances like that, but otherwise there are plans.
Mayor and Council, one thing I'd like to sort of highlight, just stepping back one slide, as Janet referenced earlier, you can see in those early treatments, we're talking in the range of $20,000 to $30,000 a mile to do the treatment. When you get to the next phase of treatment, you're at $125,000 to $600,000 a mile. So when we talk about resource and resource allocation, that's where literally and figuratively the rubber meets the road, because we're always trying to make that balance between those streets that may need reconstruction and those streets that may need a different treatment, but recognizing at almost a 10 or 20 to 1 cost, we want to make sure we have a balance to the system. And I think the council and previous councils have been very judicious and providing strong resources for the streets management department, coming from a community previously where that wasn't the case. I can tell you firsthand that there's ample resource at this point to continue to keep our streets in good condition. But we wanted to share this to provide context, because sometimes people, they obviously want their street fixed, but we're talking in some cases $600,000 a mile as opposed to something that might be $20,000 or $30,000 a mile. So we just wanted to provide that context.
So with the results of the IMS survey, we were able to benchmark our maintenance program with our average PCI and validate our strategies to gain a more global insight of our planning. We learned that Peoria's average PCI is above the national average as compared to other IMS clients, and our backlog of very poor payment is below the national average. So we are comfortably at a 72 at this point. While the national average is a 65, our backlog is less than 1%, and the national average is 10%. And this graph was provided by our consultant, and it's, again, indicative of our program and our goals and objectives. So with a 0 to 100 being the perfect brand new street, and our life cycle at the bottom right there being 50 years, the city of Peoria sits right up there at the 72 in the very good range. So our overall network puts us well within our target of maintaining a good to very good network.
Again, Mayor and Council as well, we've highlighted here sort of various costs of treatments and the things that would happen at various points along that sort of that curve, recognizing at time you're going to do different treatments. So we just wanted to sort of help display this. Some of this information, like, wait, didn't I just see this? And we tried to figure out the right way to make sure it was understandable, but that's the purpose of this slide.
This graph indicates our budget-based productivity from FY14 through our current 5-year plan ending in FY23. On average, we can treat about 48 miles or 8% of our network per year. In FY18, our budget was increased, and we were able to complete some significant projects. So that's why you see that one very long bar in the middle, and that was this year's productivity. So as Stuart mentioned earlier, we're very near done with that, although we still have some fall projects to finish out.
So if I recall, we increased the budget by $1 million for 18. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And in FY '21, our budget returns to its former level, but the projection for our PCI, based upon the current payment management plan, is that our PCI will remain above 70 throughout FY '23 by following our current program. And this is just a little bit more about what we accomplished in this year. So I realize it's kind of hard to see the map there, but we did color in quite a bit of the map over FY '18, and that was in large part because we got some extra funding. We accomplished some significant projects. Of note, Lake Pleasant Parkway from Cibola Vista to SR 74. We did a seal coat in a large section of Country Meadows. We did mill and overlay in a number of areas, including around City Hall, and we will be continuing with that as we go forward in the spring. There are also a number of areas that are still planned, including, and I won't read the whole list to you because it's fairly extensive, but those are seal coats and slurry seals and mill and overlay to finish out the overall year. So our contractor, IMS, estimated that at the end of this program in FY '18, we would have bumped our PCI from 72 to 74. Again, that's kind of unusual because it was a banner year for our budget as well as our productivity, but also because we had some of those very large projects that needed to be tended, such as Lake Pleasant Parkway. And again, with a picture being worth 1,000 words, I just like pictures. These are some great photos that kind of demonstrate some of the payment preservation that we can accomplish and what the before and after looks like. So at the left there is Country Meadows, and some time ago, we did do some rehabilitation on Country Meadows. One of the questions we're often asked is, why are you back in there so soon? It's a newer neighborhood. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about here, though, is we've accomplished rehabilitating this road back to a good or very good condition. So that it's important to get in with the payment preservation, follow up, and that's where our greatest economy is in extending those life cycles. And so we should see Country Meadows hold up for a very long time, and you can see the before and after there. In Lake Pleasant Parkway, that's a bit of a new experience for us. We really haven't had a lot of parkways in the city of Peoria. Going forward, that's a bit of a new beast, but we did find that Lake Pleasant Parkway is going to need some attention more often than the other roads because of the load frequencies, because of the development up north and all of the traffic that's on that on a daily basis. So we were able to micro-seal Lake Pleasant Parkway from Cibola Vista all the way up to SR 74, and that was a big chunk of the PCI as well.
Is there any way that, like, us as street users could maintain the street, or, like, keep the longevity of it looking as good as this? Like, anything that we can do just to keep them looking?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm actually really glad you asked that. As residents, one of the main things that causes deterioration of roads is water that's being pushed out into the roads. So overwatering is a problem. In areas where irrigation happens and people over-irrigate or it goes out into the street, you can see the tracks of the irrigation. I'm sorry, pool draining. Pool draining is another. We need to be sure that people are draining their pools properly into the sewers and not out into the streets because that water causes a lot of degradation. So it's really just that. We're fortunate here in the Southwest. We have a lot of really good conditions for pavement management. They're favorable to us. The sun is extreme, the heat is extreme, certainly, and so, yes, that causes some acceleration, but we don't have all that water, so if we're not putting the additional water in the street, that can definitely help out.
Mayor Council, it's an excellent point. We also don't have freeze-thaw. We don't have communities in the Northeast where people are adding salt to the road, and that eats away at the road. So, relative to a lot of parts of the country, the Southwest is sort of blessed in a lot of ways in terms of having good pavement and a good base to work from. But by the same token, it still means we want to make sure we keep an eye on it and keep it maintained so we can get to enjoy that experience.
Councilmember Hunt.
Okay, so what about Vistancia with their special funding package that I can't remember what it was called, that they voted to?
Their Community Facilities District?
Yes. So do they take care of their own streets? And does that come under that, or is the city of Peoria still responsible for that?
Mayor, Councilmember Hunt, I think the easiest way for me to touch on it is a private street is maintained by the private entity.
So
If
those are
it's a
considered private?
Well, I guess I'm not, I'll leave
You're-
that
you're-
to the
you're
time,
correct.
but public streets are maintained by the city, so that's the delineation. Now, whether the CFD ultimately ends up having public streets that are funded through the community there is one issue.
Okay,
But generally, if they're private streets, they're maintained by the private HOA or the CFD.
Right, and, yeah, exactly. And to clarify, the initial CFD helped to support in Vistancia just water and wastewater facilities. In the future, it's a great point because there is an interest by the development community throughout Arizona communities to look at CFDs to help support street improvements. But again, that would not be largely for the maintenance, which would be on our dime.
So do you have any idea how many I'll call them gated communities, because those would be private streets, I guess, are in the north? Because I have one here, but
Mayor, Councilmember, I'm not sure, I don't think we have a good record of that right
Because
now.
we
We could
can-
look, I'm
we
not
can
sure, because
take
we don't,
those
again, we
off
don't
of
maintain
our-
those streets, so
right.
they're sort of out of sight, out of mind, because they're
Okay.
not part of our maintenance responsibility.
Okay.
But that may be something ultimately I can speak with the planning folks to get a sense of the number of developments and that sort of thing. But obviously, with 634 roughly
Right.
miles, the vast majority of the street network is ours.
okay. Well, I would think that would feel good to be able to just get rid of those and not have to think about them. I guess my other is kind of a statement, and I want you to tell me that I'm wrong on this. This is what it feels like, is that this is the oldest part of the city down here. Carlos, my district, and to a certain extent Mike's, as we start to move forward. It makes sense, we have the oldest streets, and I'm not kidding, those two really bad ones, I could probably take you to them. They are in my district. So then as we move north, what it feels like is that those streets take Lake Pleasant Parkway out of the equation, because I understand it gets so much traffic. I'm just talking about regular residential streets. They're getting so much more of the attention, they're getting so much more of the money, because they fall in the Stitch in Time Saves 9 category, whereas ours are so bad, they just get worse and worse and worse. And when do we get something taken care of? Because you hit it, Stuart. If a person lives on that street, they don't really care. They don't care about the money. They don't care about how you figure it out. They just know that they live on a rotten street and they don't like it, and it's our fault. So am I correct that the streets up north or going north are getting the temporary stuff?
As you sort of said, Mayor, Councilmember Hunt, as you sort of said, you sort of started with, please tell me I'm wrong. And I guess I would sort of tell you politely, I think it's just a little simplified in terms of your response. I think the reality is that as we go through this presentation here and show the next several years, you're going to see street work throughout the entire city, north, south, east, west. And the reality is it would be irresponsible for me to come forward and say, well, we need to fix everything and get it to a 90 on a score, because fundamentally we couldn't afford it and we could never afford to maintain it. And so we want to make sure we provide an accurate reference, and as I'm even showing here in slide 19, you'll see it's a lot fewer miles we're doing next fiscal year, but it's a lot more arterial miles. Classic example, a lot of the residential streets that we showed in the previous slide, and I'm going back to show you that, it's a lot of residential streets. A residential street maybe is the equivalent of 2 vehicles going back and forth, maybe 3, so the width is 55, 60 feet. You go to arterials, you're talking potentially in many cases 6 lanes of traffic, plus turn lanes, plus bike lanes. You might be at 150, 175 feet width. So you can cover fewer miles, but those are also the miles where the vast majority of the traffic is on those arterial streets. And again, in this case, I think there's a fair balance between the entire community. And we're not, and I've sort of really reemphasized with Janet and the staff, we cannot look at this as, well, let's balance north, south, east, west. Not a practical solution. We need to do the right treatment at the right location. And so as you'll see this, I think much of our community, whether it's north or south, is in need of pavement preservation activities. Some are minor, some are as simple as crack fills. Some are more significant, like reconstructions or mill and overlays. And many of these arterial functions we're talking about are either a micro seal or mill and overlay. So that's where we're talking, where we're getting $200,000, $400,000 a mile. It's just like, we aren't doing that much. Well, we're doing still $7 million worth of work, but we're focusing on where we think we need to do it. As we go forward and as we slide to 20 and 23, you're going to see a balance between the arterial streets and the residential streets. These 2 years in particular, we sort of called out residential 1 year primarily, arterials the next. But as we go forward in 20 through 23, we're trying to balance that a little bit. So we do a little bit of everything each year. Does that help with an answer?
I only see one spot here that's even in my district. And I don't know exactly what these all mean, but I only see one street that's in my district.
Okay. And I guess what I'd like to do is ultimately we can talk a little bit offline
Sure.
about which street and everything
Sure,
else.
but do you understand why
I
I'm
do
saying it
understand.
that way?
I absolutely understand where you're
And
coming from.
do you understand that I
Yes.
have to answer to the people that are calling
Absolutely. No,
all
I
the time and
appreciate that.
saying,
I-
my toddler fell in the hole in the street?
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate you all do, because I know I've met with many of you, almost all of you, or Janet has, in terms of neighborhood visits with residents who, regardless of what the condition of their street is, they want it fixed now. Whatever it is, they want it fixed now. So I absolutely get that. And we want to be as responsive to those things, and sometimes it's very localized repair, sometimes it's a bigger issue, but we want to be very responsive to that.
So in 2019, do we have any of the street replacements or whatever you called it? I don't.
Mayor and Council, yes, so looking at that chart as an example in 19, where it talks about mill and overlay, that's probably that's the next step before you're doing a full reconstruction, and it's that sort of, what looks to be sort of the magenta color. It looks like there's some segments both north and south, as I'm looking generally on the map, in the southeast along, is it 83rd Avenue, I believe?
I know.
Excuse me, or 75th?
No, that's 91st. There's
It's
only.
75th at one end and then up at
Councilmember Hunt, if
91st
you can
at the other.
open and see all of these are in your packet.
Yeah,
you can
they're also in your
probably
packet.
Right,
read them
I can
easier.
see
Here's
it
your
there, though.
layout.
There's one little.
Yeah.
One thing, just to, just in the interest of time, we can get through some of the presentation. I think a really important point, because I think that Councilmember Hunt is exactly right. There is an expectation in the city of Peoria that we have a standard that of pavement condition that is consistent for all of our Peoria residents, and we need to make sure that we keep to that. At any given times, the treatment package changes, but the bottom line is we should always remember that outcome. And it wouldn't be acceptable for us to have a deteriorated condition in one area of the city. And the idea here is that is a paramount goal for us. Hopefully we'll show that more as we go through the presentation. And I would love to talk that through, including offline if we need to, because we can revisit this in budget sessions and other times.
Yes.
Okay,
Janet, if you want,
I'm sorry, we're back to FY19.
oh, sure.
Okay. Because as Stuart mentioned there, FY19 is largely arterial roads. Arterial roads are significantly more expensive because we can't do those early pavement preservations. A slurry or a micro seal, or excuse me, a slurry or a seal coat aren't appropriate for those roads. So, and also because of the greater volume, you have multiple lanes. There are also pavement markings, pavement markers to consider. We may have to upgrade the curb, gutter, sidewalks. So all of those things that play into doing arterial roads really affect the overall cost. In FY19, and in the past, we had arterials programmed in and residentials programmed in alternating years. We begin to blend that in FY20 and going forward. So you'll see less of the distinction going forward, but you'll also see still, to some degree, we're going to focus on doing this similar projects at the same time. So in FY19, we do have largely arterial projects moving forward. 91st Avenue in several sections and using a couple of different treatments. We have Terramar Boulevard and Desert Moon, Union Hills Drive, 83rd to 93rd, which is a very significant section, and then 79th Avenue, as well as Mill and Overlay, which is the pre-construction mode for several of our roads. And we still have a section of slurry seal, which is the residential communities down in the bottom section there. For FY20 through 23, you'll notice that we colored a significant portion of the map. And with these, by the fact that we plan these jobs well in advance, it's important to know that we do have to remain flexible. As Stuart mentioned earlier, there are a variety of things that can come into play as we're moving forward. Development, other projects, engineering, utilities. We don't want to go in and rehabilitate a road only to have something like that come forward. So we work extensively with the other divisions and even with the other agencies to make sure that we're not going to be doing something that's soon going to be damaged by the other work that's coming through. And also just traffic impacts. If there's something going on in an adjacent community, Glendale, for example, we don't want to run parallel to them at the same time if we can help that. So we do try to schedule all of those things going forward. And we'll have another one of the IMS surveys in every 3 years. So in FY20, we'll have a new circumstance with new grades and new priorities, and we'll have to factor that into the program as well going forward. We always have a plan B, so we're always ready to move forward if those things happen and we can do something else. FY20 through 23, as you can see there, is pretty extensive, and I certainly wouldn't want to go through the list, but those are a number of the projects that we have planned throughout the community. And that's
With that, Mayor and Council, that really sort of concludes the presentation. We certainly appreciate the questions we've gotten. We hope if there are others, we certainly want to have them. We want to be able to answer them. And if there's ever interest to meet offline to talk about specific neighborhoods, specific issues, we're always happy to do that. But again, our real emphasis is, as sort of summarizes, doing the right thing at the right time. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Councilmember Leone.
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention that two things. Number one, you're doing a great job. I go up and down the streets and I see where Country Meadows is being done. There's a lot more on Country Meadows that has to be done. I get calls all the time on that they're going to be done. And you know that Kevin calls you up all the time and wants to know when. 103rd Avenue, I know that's going to be done as soon as they do all those homes. And that's going to be a great street, A question I want to ask you, is Suncliff and Country Meadows put together, or that's separate?
Mayor, Councilmember Leone, I will defer that one to Janet.
Do you mean would we treat them at the same time?
Put the streets in.
Not necessarily. Really, the definition of whether or not we would treat those communities at the same time in the same way really has to do with, again, their overall condition right now and if they need the same treatment. So yes, if the same treatment's appropriate for those two communities, ideally we would connect them. We understand that people are going to look over the fence and see that their neighbors are getting something and they want their share as well. So we do try to make those connections wherever that's logical. If, however, one community needs a reconstruction, for instance, and the other community can be resolved and brought back up to good or very good with a micro seal, we might move forward and place that micro seal. So it really depends on the circumstances.
Yes, also, we get a lot of small districts in Country Meadows. Like we got the Meadows. That's a separate subdivision. My question is to all of this, like I said before, you're doing a great job. But when you're driving down the street and people stop me or talk to me or call me up and they see all these lines, they think it's a map, And that's something that people just don't like to see. They like to see it nice and smooth, what you've been doing, and which is great. I just want to give you a heads up on it. A lot of people say it's a great job, but sometimes the contractors may go overboard and get on the sidewalk. And as you know, you probably get more phone calls from Karen than from me to take care of it, and you do a great job. And all I want to say is just keep the good work up, and let's hope we can finish up all these streets before next year comes.
Thank you. Mayor, Councilmember Leone, just real quickly, I'd like to highlight one thing that you referenced, which is obviously because a lot of our work is done with contractors, between our own staff that does the inspection of that work, as well as sometimes our engineering staff. That's an ongoing process, and I think we've had a number of contractors who, at least recently, have been very responsive when things have happened, particularly if residents come in, even if they maybe weren't supposed to, or maybe we thought it was going to be dry, and track, say, oil up onto their driveway. And if it's not something, we've had our contractors repeatedly do cleanups and stuff where we've had problems with that sort of thing. So we recognize there's a real quality control component to this, and it's not just pavement like it's just drive it on and don't worry about it, that people they want it to look right and don't want it tracked into their driveway. So we are very aware of that situation and try to make sure we correct that when it comes up.
Well, I was hoping, since I've been elected, I always thought that we should have our own department in doing the streets. And, I know it's gonna cost a lot of money, but I'm still looking to see it come before I'm gone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. In the Mesquite District where it's growing and a lot of new development, and where different intersections within the residential communities, we're growing into stop signs or traffic signals. We're not quite there, but we find where citizens have requested, and I've requested, and it's happened where we've had to add additional striping to indicate a stop sign ahead or some sort of warning. Does that come out of the same budget?
Mayor,
Or is that not part of the
Councilmember Binsbacher, it typically
preservation?
does not.
Okay.
The traffic engineering components of those sort of things comes from a separate budget. Part of that may ultimately be funded through HERF revenues, depending, so it may come from the same pot of money, but it's not coming necessarily from us. Now, if we do, as Janet referenced earlier, when we do, say, Lake Pleasant Parkway, and we're doing more striping there because of the nature of that road, the striping and that restriping of the road will come from the pavement work that gets redone.
So is
But
that
if
the
it's-
same in the residential? You have to go back and seal it to try to make it last as long as possible? That then comes from this?
Mayor, Councilmember Binsbacher, yes. When the project is something we're sort of initiating, then we will sort of take the project soup to nuts in terms of getting everything that's correct and done. But if there's an enhancement, what sounded like you were talking, like a new bike lane gets put in, that's not something that we're typically
Okay.
doing. Once it's in, then it becomes part of the infrastructure, so then if the road needs to be repaved or resurfaced, then it's restriped accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. Stuart, I just want to make a couple comments. First off, this report is remarkable. It's got a lot of detail to it, and I've spent a lot of time going through it in the last couple of days, and it's pretty comprehensive. I just want to thank you and your staff for the comprehensive report, but I also want to thank you guys for the attention to detail to the residents of Peoria, because I know that I have asked you many times on the behalf of residents to go out and take a look at a road, and you guys have gone above and beyond and actually set up meetings with those residents who had their concerns and really spent the time. And Janet, you spent a lot of time out in the Ventana Lakes area talking to residents and really explaining to them the difference in the condition of the roads and why certain projects take longer to get completed. And they went from, I won't say on the cliff, but they were very upset because their roads weren't being taken attention to. But after talking to you and you explaining all the processes, they really understood what it takes to get a road into the condition it needs to be. So I just want to thank you guys for doing that extra legwork. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks. Councilmember Finn.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick question. How much of this presentation is actually going to go onto the website? The entire?
Mayor, Councilmember Finn, our plan is to put the entire presentation, including the PowerPoint, into it. So that way residents can look at the detail in terms of the PCIs for each of the segments of streets, in addition to the executive summary, in addition to the report. So, we've tried to build on each thing so that way there's no inconsistencies, but give them a chance to look at it. And that way, if there's questions, we can help respond to that.
So they can go in and look up their street and say that it was assessed as fair or excellent?
Yes.
Or that's outstanding. And when will that be up?
Mayor, Councilmember Finn, I expect we'll have that done probably in the next couple weeks at the outside. We've got to coordinate that with communications and their group to because it's a big PDF file. We want to make sure as people look at it, it's easy to access it, so it's not cycling continuously to get the data, that it's easy for them to get to.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Can I make just one suggestion? Rather than putting it in a PDF form, can you put it in an Excel spreadsheet out there? Because it's much easier for myself. When Janet sent it to me, it was much easier to sort the data that I wanted to see versus transporting this into a format that I could work with.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we'll certainly work to figure out what the best way is to demonstrate that, and whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or both, we'll work through that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I just have one thing to add to that, and that is the fact that highway user revenue funds are supposed to be coming to us as a disbursement from the state based on population to all of the cities and towns. And for the last large number of years, those funds have been diverted to pay for state agencies and other things. They have, in the last year or two, tried to give us partial amounts of HERF funds back. But without those funds, we are having to handle all of our streets and do all of this through our general fund. And that is crippling to our general fund, and it's difficult to make sure that we maintain our streets as well as we have. In spite of that, I think that you have done an amazing job. The city management has done an amazing job making sure that the budget is funding all of this, and as I said, last year we had an additional $1 million added to that budget, in spite of the fact that we are not receiving all of the designated funds that we are supposed to be getting from the state. So that even makes the job that you're doing much more commendable. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and also thanks to our city management for making sure that our budget covers all of this. Is there anything else?
Thank you very much for that. And again, I think really good conversation. And as we're talking about, a lot of the devil is in the details. And so you all know the streets in your district so well. We really appreciate your feedback as you continue through that, and especially where you do see concerns, because there is enough flexibility within this program to make sure that we do maintain those standards. So thank you for the feedback.
Good. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned until our 7 p.m. meeting.
Please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of a speaker's request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time, in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Peoria City Council meeting will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of quiet reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Leone.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Binsbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
here.
Council Liaison Acosta.
Here.
And Council Liaison Gaytrist.
Here.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of January 9th, 2018. We will begin this evening with a number of presentations. And the first one is an acknowledgement of the Arizona Division of Occupational Safety and Health as we enter into a public partnership with them. And I'm going to turn that over to City Manager Jeff Tyne to begin that presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wanted to broach an important topic for us here at the City of Peoria, and that is of workplace safety. It's not real well known that in local government, we have a higher rate of non-fatal workplace injuries than even in the private sector, and that includes construction. And so the City of Peoria, of course, puts huge emphasis on being proactive and invested in helping keep our employees safe. Nonetheless, we continue to look for new ways to minimize the number and the severity of workplace injuries. And one exciting way that we've found to do that is to enter into what we call the PEP program. PEP is run by the Arizona Division of Occupational Safety and Health here, and it's the Public Entities Partnership Program. And through this partnership, we'll work very closely with this state agency to review our work processes, identify and remove potential hazards, continue educating employees on an ongoing basis on their safety and health matters. We're excited. Also, as I understand, and we can ask some of the representatives, we're of what I believe only 9 cities here in the state that are undertaking and partnering this at this point. We're proud to work very closely. We have already, we think, a really good relationship with the division. Now, we do have 4 representatives here tonight from the Arizona Division of Occupational Safety and Health, including the Industrial Commission of Arizona's chairman, Dale Schultz, the ADOSH director, Bill Warren, the Assistant Director, Jesse Atencio, and Compliance Assistant Specialist, Brandon Stowell. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And it really is an honor to have so many fine individuals from Arizona Department of Safety here this evening. And I know that a couple of you would like to speak, and we would be honored to have you come down to the podium and give us a few words. We have Arizona Chairman Dale Schultz and Director Bill Warren.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I am here. This is the best part of my job, and that is to be here with folks like you who have entered into a collaborative agreement with our Arizona Division of Occupational Safety and Health. Why this is so important? Number one, you are now our largest member of the Public Entity Partnership Program. And so we thank you for participating in this program, and it is a unique program. There are only a handful of states in the nation that have programs that are focused on collaboration with public entities. Why is that so important? I will tell you that when I became chairman of the Industrial Commission just over 3 years ago, I made a conscious decision to move away from enforcement of standards and towards collaboration. There are only so many places you can visit, and there's only so many fines and assessments you can make. Through collaboration, we can work together to make our state the safest place to work and play. And that's what we want to be. We have committed to becoming a part of the economic engine of the state instead of just being viewed as a regulatory agency. And so I want to thank you for joining this unique collaboration between a state agency and a city. And we are going to work together to make a significant impact in the lives of your employees. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councilman, and City Manager, thank you so much for this invitation. Let me tell you, we are absolutely excited to be working in a collaborative approach with the City of Peoria. I do believe that through that cooperation and that working together, we get a better product. As the chairman has said, what's important is that our mission is the same. You know, if you really take a look at it, one of the missions that each of us has as an employer is we want to see our employees go home safe every day. And I used to say that a lot, that we want you to go home safe every day, mainly because we also need you to come back to work the next day. And so that's an important aspect for all of us. Through programs like what we're offering with the PEP program, it is a cooperation partnership program to where both of us working together in developing safety culture, safety systems, safety management processes, what we end up getting is we get a safe place to work. And as the chairman's goal is, you know, his challenge has always been, we want Arizona to be the safest place to work in the nation. And through programs like this and working with you, we become partners. And what happens is we get a real safe place to work. And that's really what all of us are about. People going home, enjoying their families, coming back to work the next day, and not worrying about an injury. And so thank you so much for your leadership that you provided here with us. And we are looking so forward for this next few years of working with you and your staff. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. One more comment, if I might, and
Yes.
that's in my other life. I'm a member of the management team for Maricopa Integrated Health System, and I want to tell you how excited Maricopa is to be working with you to bring you high-quality health care and jobs to your community. So thank you for that also.
Double exciting news for us, too. And we are so looking forward to making sure that in the city of Peoria, we have a culture of safety, that we don't need to be policed. We do it because we want to, because we care about our employees and care about our residents. So thank you for all that you do. All right, we will now move on to our second presentation, and this is about Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life. And I am going to come down in front here and read a proclamation. So give me just a moment, please. Thank you. All right. Since 2009, suicides among youths have increased 81%. Wow, that is just a horrible fact. One critical factor is the stigma associated with asking for help. On January 16th, 2018, students, police chiefs, government officials, parents, and teachers will gather together to tackle ongoing issues involving bullying, depression, drug addiction, and other ongoing issues facing our youth. Together, we can inspire everyone to speak up, stand up, and help save a life. And now I would like to invite to come down and join me here in the front the conference founders, Gina Godbehere and Dr. Lily DeBlue, so that I may read a proclamation to you. Yes, thank you so much for coming, both of you. So bear with me while I do a few whereases here. This is the City of Peoria proclamation. Whereas the Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life movement presents an ideal opportunity to help bridge the gap between our local community, government, and law enforcement in a positive way. And whereas our local schools are facing unnecessary tragedies where warning signs are placed on social media or observed in person but are not being reported as serious threats or cries for help. And whereas our youth need to be empowered to report concerning posts or comments to law enforcement or school representatives, and to help spread the message that it is okay to care enough to speak up, stand up, and save a life. And whereas more than 3,000 students from 300 Arizona schools will learn the message and create communication programs in their schools and communities. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Carlett, Mayor of Peoria, Arizona, do hereby proclaim January 2018 as Speak Up, Stand Up, and Save a Life Month. So congratulations to both of you. Chief, you making your way here? Okay, Leadership West? Yes. So I understand the chief was on the team when they were all part of Leadership West and came up with this program, which is now a standalone program, no longer just part of the Leadership West. All right, and now for the 17th annual Celebrate the Constitution contest. Yay, thank you so much, all of you, what a great participation. We have a full audience tonight. It's really touching. So let me tell you a little bit about this. For the past 17 years, the City of Peoria has organized a Constitution contest for Peoria students as a way to celebrate the U.S. Constitution. The purpose of the contest is to promote an understanding of the United States Constitution to school-age children, something I think we all need. Grade appropriate topics aligned to the K-12 academic standards for social studies. Students in kindergarten created a poster illustrating what America means to them. First through fourth grade students were asked to describe and illustrate a poster that explains what America means to them. And then fifth through eighth grade students composed an essay on how the branches of government ensure a balance of power. And then finally, students in the 9th through 12th grades submitted essays on what types of character traits, behaviors, or actions are important to preserve and uphold the Constitution. These are great things. Select teachers, youth advisory board members, and City of Peoria representatives judged entries, and the City Council will now recognize the students selected as first, second, and third place in each category. All winners will receive gift certificates, and a grand prize of a $1,500 college scholarship will be presented to a high school junior or senior. Now, to join me in presenting the certificates, I would like to invite George Colebrook from our Community Services Department, along with our two Youth Council liaisons, Maylee Acosta and Cassidy Gatrust. And Uncle Sam. Oh, how could I have forgotten Uncle Sam? Please come on down. So our youth council liaisons are going to call out the names, and then we will take a photo, and they will get a certificate, and we'll move right along. Who needs the microphone here? Who's announcing names? Oh, okay, over there.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. And we would like to hold applauses until we're done with each individual grade group. So our first group will be our kindergarten group. And we have first place, Camila Santiago. Second place, Aviana Hall. And third place, Adeline Omer. So if you individuals can come up.
That's the one that Bill's scared.
Parents, if you would like to come down, you can take pictures up front as well. Congratulations, ladies.
I would just like to say to all of the kids here who come down, you are on TV tonight. So if you will look straight ahead there, you will be on the camera and you can watch Channel 11 at home and see yourself.
And for our first and second grade group, we have first place, Brielle Woodward, second place, Liliana Jolie Torres, and third place, Logan Woodward. Come on down. And parents, if you would like to come and take pictures, you can come down now as well. Congratulations. Our third and fourth grade winners, first place, Savannah Dolfini, second place, Ella Carlson, and third place, Adeline Benchia. Our 5th and 6th grade winners: first place, Brenna O'Kane; second place, Robert Bielman; and third place, Jonathan Carey. Parents, if you would like to come down and take pictures, you can come down as well now. Our 7th and 8th grade winners: in first place, Riley Jones; second place, Zoe Goodwin; and third place, Xavier Guzman. Come on down. Now moving on to high school. The 9th, 10th grade winners. In first place, Jade Quinn; second place, Gage Zahn; and third place, Nariah Tanner. Congratulations. Our 11th and 12th juniors and seniors. In first place, Craig Ziegler; second place, Ballin Overstalls McNair; and third place, Ellie Lakin. And our grand prize winner, Marley Burgess from Centennial High School. Congratulations to all our winners.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks to all of the parents who are so supportive of their children that they come down to City Hall and support the Constitution. I mean, it really says a lot for all of you and all of your families. Thank you so much. All right. We will now proceed to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes items that require a public hearing. If there is any member of the public present who wants to address a public hearing on the consent agenda, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. This item will then be removed from the consent agenda and heard during the normal course of the regular agenda. Are there any members of the public who would like to remove something from the consent agenda? Seeing none, council, are there any items to be removed from consent? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Council, please vote. And the consent agenda passes unanimously. All right. We will now move on to new business. Next item on the agenda is 18R. This is the election of the vice mayor. This is pursuant to Article 2, Section 8 of the Peoria City Charter. The City Council shall designate one of its members as vice mayor who shall serve in such capacity at the pleasure of the council. The vice mayor shall perform duties of the mayor during his or her absence or disability. Vice mayors have previously been elected to serve either 1 or 2-year terms. At the January 10th, 2017 City Council meeting, Councilmember John Edwards was elected as vice mayor to a 1-year term. So an election for a new vice mayor and the establishment of term length is now necessary. And the procedure for nomination and election of vice mayor is this. Number 1, City Council will first establish the term length by a motion and a vote. And number 2, subsequently, the mayor will open the floor to nominations. The mayor will then state which council members have been nominated, and the council will vote by ballot, which will be verbally recorded by the city clerk. So, council, may I have a motion on a proposed term for vice mayor?
Mayor.
Yes.
May I motion for a 1-year term as vice mayor?
Okay, we have a motion for a 1-year term. Are there any other motions?
Second.
Okay. Then it is seconded. Is there any discussion? Council, please vote, and the clerk will record the vote. So we are voting on a 1-year term. And that passes unanimously. Okay. I will now open the floor for nominations for vice mayor. No second is required for this. So do I have any nominations for vice mayor?
Mayor, I would like to nominate Mayor Pro Tem Michael Finn as,
What's his name again?
yes, as vice mayor.
Councilmember Finn?
Councilmember Finn, yes.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we do not need a second for that. So, council, please vote on vice mayor nomination for Michael Finn. And that passes unanimously. All right. Congratulations, Councilmember Finn.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is election of Mayor Pro Tem. The Mayor Pro Tem shall perform the duties of the mayor in the absence or disability of both the mayor and the vice mayor. At the January 10th, 2017 City Council meeting, Councilmember Mike Finn was elected as Mayor Pro Tem to a one-year term. An election for a new Mayor Pro Tem and a new term length is now necessary. So the procedure will be the same. The City Council will first establish the term length by a motion and a vote. Do I have a motion on the term length for Mayor Pro Tem?
I motion 1 year.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, council, please vote on a one-year term length for Mayor Pro Tem. And that passes unanimously. All right, so we will now move on to a motion for Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to nominate for Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Vicky Hunt.
Okay, are there any other motions? And we do not require a second for that, so council, please vote. We're voting on Councilmember Vicky Hunt for Mayor Pro Tem. And that passes unanimously. We did that really well, I would just like to say. And I would like to thank Vice Mayor, or previous Vice Mayor John Edwards for his service, and previous Mayor Pro Tem Mike Finn for his service for the past year. And with that, so we can make some seating adjustments here, we will take a short 10-minute break. meeting will now come to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Bensbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
Here.
Council Liaison Acosta.
Here.
And Council Liaison Gietrist.
Here.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome back to the Peoria City Council meeting of January 9th, 2018. We will resume our agenda with a series of public meetings. And the first one is agenda item 20R. This is a public hearing, initial zoning, Cross of Glory, 102nd Avenue and Joe Max Road. And Mr. Tyne, staff report.
Great, thank you. And Chris Hawkes, our Planning and Community Development Director, will provide a presentation for you on this item.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year. Item 20R, this is a city-initiated application to assign initial zoning to property that was recently annexed by the city pursuant to state statutes. So the property in question is indicated on red on the screen. It's generally located at the corner of, or at the Joe Max and 102nd Avenue. The property contains the Cross of Glory Lutheran Church. The request this evening is to rezone the property from its zoning in the county, which is rural 43, to our equivalent, which is Suburban Ranch, or SR 43. Okay, this slide illustrates the annexation and initial zoning process at a glance. So the process and the timetables associated with this are very well detailed in the state statute. When you look at phase one, the property was annexed. The city adopted an annexation ordinance on October 17th, 2017. So the property is in the city. What the state statute then says is that we have to assign what they call initial zoning within 6 months of the effective date. And so as guidance for that, they provide that the initial zoning cannot permit densities or uses more intense than that was granted in the county. So what that means in practice is that we try to find our most equivalent or most analogous zoning category that lines up with what was permitted in the county. This is a map that shows the zoning in the area. All the area in gray is the county island. You can see it's zoned rural 43, which is the county's semi-rural zoning category requiring 1 acre lots. Our most equivalent zoning category would be Suburban Ranch 43. It also requires 1 acre lot and is our version of that type of zoning. Like all zoning cases, it does require a public outreach process. We did provide notification to all properties within a 600-foot radius. It was posted. One difference between initial zoning, which is more perfunctory, and our standard zoning process is that we are not required to have a neighborhood meeting for the project. So one was not held. Opposition and support, the city has not received any correspondence in opposition or support during the zoning process. We held a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 16th. There were not any speakers from the general public, and the commission recommended approval of the case. Key findings, the state law does require us to establish initial zoning after annexation. Zoning must be equivalent. We've identified the SR 43 to be the most equivalent zoning category to what the county had in place. And with that, Mayor and Council, recommendation is to concur with the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation and establish initial zoning of Suburban Ranch on a newly annexed 7.52 acre parcel. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Hawkes? All right, this is a public hearing. I declare this public hearing open. Is there any members of the public who would care to address this issue? All right, seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. Council, any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you. Council, please vote. And it passes unanimously. Right, we will now move on to our next public hearing. This is item 21R, initial zoning, 71st Avenue and Thunderbird Road. Mr. Tyne.
Great, and again, Mr. Hawkes will provide a presentation.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, agenda item 21R, like the last case, this is also a city-initiated application to assign initial zoning to property that was recently annexed by the city. So the property location is located at the northwest corner of Thunderbird Road and 71st Avenue. This is a signalized corner, Thunderbird being an arterial, 71st Avenue being a collector. The site is about 11.82 acres in size. The request this evening is to rezone the property from what's called Maricopa County Residential Unit Plan of Development, and I'll explain that in a minute, to Peoria Planned Area Development. So that would be the equivalent zoning district. Okay, as I indicated on the last slide, the annexation and zoning process is provided on the screen here. In this case, we annexed the 11-acre property back in November 28th, 2017. And like I indicated at the last item, we cannot permit densities or intensities more intense than that permitted in the county. So when we looked at the zoning in the area, again, the site's identified in blue. I'll explain what a residential unit plan of development in the county, that's like our PAD where you can customize the standards. The property did go through a zoning process very recently, so I'll explain what that entitlement looks like. What we're proposing this evening is that we assign planned area development that captures that entitlement in the county. This is the existing entitlement, the residential unit plan of development. So on May 10th, 2017, the County Board of Supervisors, they approved a rezone of the property to the residential unit plan of development. Again, it's similar to our PAD process. This is a development that will be constructed by Hancock Communities. It is a gated single-family residential community. The entitlement that they received in the county permits up to 30 single-family residential lots with a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. On the screen, you can see the access points, 2 access points at 71st, no access to Thunderbird. So in meeting state statute and the initial zoning, it was important to recognize that the public review process that unfolded in the county and the RUPD zoning that was granted therein. So again, the property was annexed in November. We've identified the PAD to be our closest equivalent zoning district to Maricopa County, RUPD. We're looking to observe the process that unfolded in the county. In your packet, the draft ordinance does contain 13 stipulations, I believe. We did refine those stipulations so that the proper references were enumerated, so they referred to Peoria processes and Peoria standards rather than the county. So you'll have that in your packet. Notification, again, went to all property owners within a 600-foot radius. As I indicated, no neighborhood meeting was required for this initial zoning application. We have not received any correspondence in opposition or support to the initial zoning application. There was a public hearing held with the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 7th, 2017, and there were no speakers present from the general public. The commission did deliberate on the project, and they recommended approval with a 6-1 vote. So key findings. State law requires us to establish initial zoning within 6 months. The zoning cannot permit greater densities or uses. We've identified the planned area development to be the closest district to the county RUPD zoning. Mayor and Council, with that, we recommend that we concur with the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation and to establish initial zoning of PAD on a newly annexed 11.82 acre parcel subject to conditions 1 through 9. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council for Mr. Hawkes? All right, seeing none, I declare this public hearing open. If there's anyone who would like to address this issue, please fill out a speaker request form. I do have one speaker request form, Mr. Ronald Dale Goff. If you would kindly come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Yeah, I was just curious of the parameters there. I'm at 73rd and Thunderbird, well, actually Cemetery Road, so it'll be real close there, that property. I think it's right now in an orchard, dead orchard, but I was wondering how that would affect us. We're still in Maricopa County, anything that's not in that area, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all I want to know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This annexation is only for this property. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, is there any other members of the public who would care to address this issue? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. Council, any further discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, please vote. And it passes unanimously. our next public hearing is item 22R. This is minor general plan amendment, 83rd Avenue and Happy Valley Road. Mr. Tyne. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, Mayor, and Council. Well, we have a case here tonight that is not connected to annexation, so we have something new here on the agenda. Items 22 and 23R, they consist of a minor general plan amendment and a rezone pertaining to a small property located at the southwest corner of Happy Valley Road and 83rd Avenue. The applicant in this case is Michael Hall from Michael Hall Architects, who is, along with LVA Urban Design Studio, they are working on behalf of the owner, Black Mountain Investment Company. So there are two requests this evening. The first request, which is 22R, minor general plan amendment proposal to redesignate the site from a variety of categories, estate density residential, low density residential, and park open space to office. And then the companion rezoning case, which is item 23R, which would be to rezone the site from SR 43 Suburban Ranch to Office Commercial 01. If the items are approved, this would facilitate the proposal, which would be to develop the site into two one-story office buildings of about 25,000 square feet. And I'll talk about that site plan in a few minutes. A little bit about the site context. Again, the property is a small vacant property of about 2.85 acres. To the west of the property, immediately to the west, is vacant state land property, Arizona state land property. West of that is the Happy Valley 40 that's being developed by Taylor Morrison, that's currently under construction. Looking northwest, or north of the site, is some smaller privately owned properties, which are in the shadow, of course, of our Sunrise Mountain Preserve. The northeast corner, a variety of private ownerships, and a Laura Vita master plan community. And then the southeast corner is 83rd Marketplace. That property received its zoning, I believe, about a year ago, but that is, currently there's been some rough grading done on the site, and the city is just awaiting construction documents for that site. The site is separated from residential communities to the south by a 230-foot SRP overhead power line easement that separates the properties. So the graphic on the left is the current general plan land use map. So as indicated, the property has several land use designations on the property, included estate residential density, which is the light brown, which are typically your larger lot designation, 0 to 2 units per acre. The yellow, which is 2 to 5 units per acre, low density residential. That's more of your suburban type of residential feel. And then this park open space designation, which has a maximum density of 1 unit per acre. Park open space is typically what we use to designate for properties that either hillside areas adjacent or along wash corridors. They could be, like in this case, the overhead power line corridor, where it's also a recreational corridor, or other sensitive areas. Now, admittedly, there are some areas of the general plan where we lack precision, and this is one of those areas that we intend to clean up with the update. I can tell you that on the property, particularly with the park open space designation that covers the majority of the property, there are no on-the-ground conditions that would suggest or merit the park open space designation. It happens to be one of those anomalies on the general plan. On the right, that's the current zoning, so that's what you can build today and the standards that are contained. The property to the west, the state land, is zoned general agricultural, which is generally a holding zone until there's a development project proposed for it. The West Wing Planned Community Development and a Laura Vita PCD actually come down this far, so they're to the north of Happy Valley. To the northwest corner, northeast corner, those properties have Suburban Ranch 43 zoning, which is a 1 acre lot zoning, as does the subject property. And then the 83rd Marketplace, as I indicated, that property was zoned about a year ago to a planned area development for a commercial use there. Separating with the overhead power line, the communities to the south are a mix of R135, 35,000 square foot lots, and R118, the community to the southeast. So this is what the proposal is for. First off, on the general plan land use map, the applicant is proposing to redesignate the property to an office category. And then on the right on the zoning map, the applicant is requesting to rezone the property to office commercial, or O1. This happens to be our least intense commercial zoning category in the city. This is a look at the conceptual development plan. Again, as I indicated, this is proposed as a professional office complex, 2 one-story office building, each building approximately 12,500 square feet. The highest point of the building, or the maximum height, would be 30 feet in height. The buildings, as they're shown on the site plan, are subject to some refinement because we're going through a site plan process right now, but conceptually they hug the corner, which works to not only conceal the parking areas but also frame the corner. There is some proposed public art installation at the corner from what I'm aware of. In terms of access, given the small size of the property, given the configuration and its location near the signalized corner, there will be some limited access to the site. So if you look at Happy Valley Road, there will be a deceleration lane and then what we call right-in, right-out only access. So there will be no median break on Happy Valley. And then if you look at the secondary access along 83rd Avenue at the southern end of that property, going northbound on 83rd, there will be a west or a left in that will get you into development, and then otherwise it'll be a restricted access point. As I indicated, this project is currently going in site plan review. There could be some refinements not only to the site plan, but to the elevations I'm showing you here. So this is conceptually what's proposed right now. Again, that could be adjusted through the site plan process. The building peaks range from 26 feet in height to 30 feet in height. I think that's important to recognize in that the 30 feet in height is, as I indicated, was the associated with office commercial zoning district is our least intense category, and 30 feet it happens to be what we allow for our single-family residential community. So it's important to have something that was residentially scaled and something that was compatible with future properties in the area. So in summary, when we looked at the general plan amendment, we noted that because it is a high-impact corner, it does enjoy site visibility. Being at a signalized major arterial corner, it favors non-residential land use. However, because the site is small, it's privately owned, access is severely limited, we believe residential scaled office would provide a good land use transition to the future residential west of it on state land. So we believe office land use would improve the general plan in this location. Relative to the rezone, office commercial, least intense commercial zoning district, the uses that it allows, and there's only a few uses that it does allow, things like office, art gallery, some ancillary retail and restaurant if there is sufficient parking. And I have to underscore that point because restaurant, retail, they do consume quite a bit of parking. What it does not permit is all the uses that you would typically see at a mile intersection, such as drive-through. It doesn't allow auto repair, gas stations, tavern, and so forth. There is a 30-foot high maximum height limitation, which, as I mentioned, does align with our single-family residential districts. In terms of public outreach, we did provide notification, not only when the application came in, but also prior to the neighborhood meeting and also prior to the public hearing notices. They went to all properties within a 600-foot radius and all registered HOAs within 1 mile. Was also published in the Peoria Times and posted by the applicant in accordance with our requirements. Through the balance of the application, we have not received any phone calls or emails in support or opposition to the case. A neighborhood meeting was held. It was held on November 9th at Copper Hills Community Church. No members of the public attended that meeting. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, the public hearing was held on December 7th, 2017. The commission, well, I should say there were no speakers from the public present in support or opposition, and after deliberation, the commission unanimously recommended approval of these cases. So the findings, we believe with the minor general plan amendment, it is an improvement to the general plan. We believe that the office land use category is the most appropriate and provides the best fit in the area given area conditions. With the rezone, the proposed office commercial would conform to the proposed office land use category and will facilitate a small, compatible, and appropriately scaled development that provides good transition in the area. So Mayor and Council, with that, we're recommending approval of items 22R, the minor general plan amendment, as well as item 23R, rezone to office commercial. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Tyne, or excuse me, for Mr. Hawkes on the rezoning or the minor general plan amendment? Comment? Councilmember Binsbacher?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think this is a great fit for this particular corner. And I know that we didn't have any opposition, but I want to thank staff and also the team representing the applicant in their effort to do the public outreach and have the public meeting, even though no one attended. I just appreciate that we're trying to engage the public as we continue to develop Peoria. So I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, this is a public hearing, and I am going to open the public hearing for both of these items at the same time. So this is the minor general plan amendment and the rezone. Are there any members of the public who would care to address this item? All right, seeing none, I close the public hearing. And we will now, council, vote on item number 22R, and that is the minor general plan amendment for 80. I need a motion. Yes.
Can we motion on both of them at the same time, or do we need to do them?
We have to vote separately.
Okay. So
we-
I motion to approve the minor general plan amendment 22R.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, council, please vote. And that passes unanimously. And we will now go to item 23R. This is the rezoning, 83rd Avenue and Happy Valley Road. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept this.
And a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Council, please vote. And that also passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is call to the public for non-agenda items. If you wish to address the City Council, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. And I do have one speaker request form from Mr. Chuck Fitzgerald. If you would please state your name and address for the record, I would appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Chuck Fitzgerald, and we live at 7147 West Voltaire in the wonderful Palo Verde district.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come here tonight and give you an update on Rotary and peace, what we're doing here in the community with regards to peace. Some of you know quite a bit about it, some of you don't know much about it, but that's what I'm here to talk about. What I'm going to share with you can be found at rotarypeaceinitiative.org, should you care to look into it. On September 21st, we celebrated the International Day of Peace at Centennial High School, and we did that with a proclamation from the mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Naming September 21st Rotary Peace Day in the city, and that was read by Council Member and now Vice Mayor Finn. Thank you for doing that. And there were 7 whereases in that one as well. So the idea behind our peace project, is particularly in the schools, is to create a space to explore peace, where students, faculty, and the community can explore peace. And we started at Centennial High School. We have 6 other schools that we're working on currently within the school district to do the same. Our belief as Rotary members and as community leaders is that every act of service creates a little bit of peace. When we read to first graders, or when we give dictionaries to third graders, or when we support a family working through issues with developmental or physical disabilities, or when we support a veteran, or when we participate in neighborhood projects, we are creating peace. To help support that, we're holding a Peace and Pancakes event February 1st at Centennial High School. We'd love to have you there for that. We also believe that all of our actions have the opportunity to create peace as well, whether it's developing policies, or whether it's a business transaction, or how we educate our children. All that is an opportunity to build peace. One other thing that we're doing is we're holding a conference here in the West Valley on May 31st called Pursuing Peace, where we have some national speakers coming in. We have a lady coming in from the Institute of Economics and Peace to talk about what it looks like for businesses to create peace. We have a gentleman coming in who's created peace literacy curriculum that can talk about that as for educators and administrators. And we have a gentleman coming in from the UN to help government agencies understand how their actions impact peace. The theme of the conference is positive peace, and positive peace is the presence of attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. So it'll be a great day for elevating the conversation of peace in our communities, and Rotary is hosting that. We hope that the city would send participants to that, both elected and staff, and we look forward to seeing you May 31st at that event. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I can't think of anything more important than the subject of peace.
Is May 31st the day of the conference?
It is the day of the conference, yes.
And where is that being held?
It's going to be held at the Wigwam. It's a statewide conference, and it's an all-day event on Thursday, May 31st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to reports from City Manager, Mr. Tyne.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. No formal reports tonight, but we did want to just show you a video of upcoming city events. Great, so some exciting events coming our way.
Yes.
So thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to reports from City Council, and we'll start with Youth Council Liaison Acosta.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a happy holiday and a new year. Over the break, we did a lot of eating, a lot of resting. We took a field trip, Cassidy and I, with Tammy to the wastewater treatment plant. There was another water treatment plant, and then we visited the Peoria Police Station up in, the north. I'm not very good with directions, but we did a lot that day. We got to tour all these different facilities, and it was just very interesting to see that part of the city, the one that you don't really see. You just turn on your water, and you don't really think about where it comes from or what happens to it before it comes clean to your home, but I really appreciate all the opportunities that council has given me in the city, and thank you. That is all.
Thank you. Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to all the children and the young adults who participated in the Constitution contest, and a special congratulations to all of those who won awards tonight. We are just out of the Christmas season, and I'd like to thank all our police officers and our firefighters. We had Shop with a Cop and a toy distribution by our firefighters, and you know, I watched very carefully how many kids had good Christmases, and it's all thanks to the police and the fire. So thank you for those efforts. We've been doing that for a number of years now, and makes the city of Peoria very proud. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go down to the state legislature and see the state of the state addressed by our governor. What I noticed when I was down there was there was a lot of young people that are involved in state government, and there's a lot of diversity among the legislators, and that was really, really good to see. Thank you to Thomas Atkins for putting all of this together for us. It was a fun day. And a special shout out to Chuck Fitzgerald, who is the newly appointed Sergeant of Arms. And lastly, I'd like to thank John Edwards and Michael Finn as doing their duties and responsibilities as the Vice Mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for your efforts, and congratulations to you, Councilmember Finn, on your appointment. Well, Vice Mayor Finn, on your appointment. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to thank Councilman Edwards for your service as Vice Mayor, and congratulations to Vice Mayor Finn.
Kind of hard to say, isn't it?
And also Councilmember Hunt. So thank you for continuing to serve. I cannot think of a better way to start 2018, but to come back knowing that we've acknowledged we're a safe place to work. We had a proclamation recognizing Speak Up, Stand Up, and Save a Life, and we got to do that in front of all of these young people that were here today that could see a wonderful example that we were setting for them by doing that as our future leaders. And to see them here honoring our Constitution and expressing patriotism as young people, fantastic way to start 2018. So I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. Welcome back to all of staff, to council, and I'm looking forward to seeing great things happen for 2018 and looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Finn.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to acknowledge Councilman Edwards for your efforts as the Vice Mayor, and also Councilmember Binsbacher, to you as well for setting such a great example of what a Vice Mayor should do to both of you, so I'm hoping I can live up to those expectations for the year. I have no doubt, but I did want to acknowledge that you guys did a phenomenal job as the Vice Mayor, and I hope I can do just close to what you guys did. So, and thank you to Council for putting me in this position. I greatly appreciate it. This is one of the most fantastic cities in this country, and I'm honored. And I also wanted to, if you didn't read the article or hear on the news about Peoria being one of the top 5 job opportunities in the country, I thought that was an amazing, amazing piece that came out. So we should all be very, very proud of that. So look forward to a great year in 2018, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought you were going to call me Mike, so you didn't.
I know. Trying my best to.
Well, I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, too. And I also want to congratulate Mike and Vicki for your new post. I know you guys will do justice to the position, and we look forward to working with you in those positions. I want to congratulate some recent recruits. We have 4 new police, fire, and medical recruits that started this year, and so I want to congratulate them for joining the department. And we also have 5 promotions within the Peoria PD this afternoon that we were able to attend and watch them being promoted. So I want to congratulate them on their promotions and wish them the very best in their future. This last Saturday, I was able to attend the Polar Plunge, even though I didn't participate because I was a little under the weather. I did go, and it's my 10th year showing up. And I just wanted to give you a little stats on some of the things that have been accomplished since this program has been put in place. So this year, we had 218 swimmers. We raised just over $3,000 for free swimming lessons for Peoria residents. So last year alone, all the pools combined, we were able to do just over 9,000 swimming lessons. That's a remarkable accomplishment for this city, and I want to commend staff for their commitment and dedication to the residents of Peoria, because water safety is very important. We have pools in almost every yard, and so people tend to forget how critical it is to watch their youngsters around pool, and you guys have taken the commitment to reiterate the importance of water safety. So I just want to commend you and your staff on a job well done. And I also attended the governor's State of the State yesterday, and got to listen to him lay out his goals for 2018, and I look forward to working within the city to deliver on some of those goals that he has set forth for the state. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt?
Well, it looks like we all survived the holidays, and you're lucky if you got some rest because it was a very, very busy time. Okay, thank you to my council, to this council. You're so great to work with, and I've been on council for a long time, and this is the best group to serve with. We all have a common goal, and that is to serve really well the citizens of Peoria. And so thank you for trusting me with the job of Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem. See, I can't even say it. I've got to do it. I, too, want to mention the police promotions this afternoon. I was so struck by how many collective hours these promotees have in their education. They have, most of them have master's degrees from prestigious universities in the area that they're working in, either police science or something, some related, and also the number of years of service that they have. All I can say is we are well protected. We are well represented in all of our ranks, but in our leadership rank especially, they're going to just set new standards, I think, and goals for our city, and congratulations to each and every one of those. I got a call on the Saturday night before Christmas from an Ask Me representative who was in San Antonio, and he said, hey, we've got tons of stuff left over from this, we were giving stuff away here. Can you help us get an event together next week? And I said, sure. And so thanks to them and a few connections on my part, and Chris Lucidi, who offered his property there and his open facility, which became the public restroom, and his graciousness. And we served 500 people that day, and I don't mean served meals. I mean, they had an opportunity to receive free food. They didn't have to show any need. They didn't have to be on any list. They just had to show up and haul it away. And so there were toys, lots of food, there were baby diapers, just everything you can imagine. They served hot dogs free and beverage and cookies. It was a really fun event, as well as, and it was on the 23rd of December. So for a lot of people, that was probably their sort of last-ditch effort to get toys for their kids. So I really do think it's worth mentioning some names. Because these guys came together at the last minute. They'd already been in San Antonio giving out things, and they drove these semi-trucks back and just started unloading things. Dave Bell of Advent Landscape, Dave Del Vecchio, ABP Signs, Adam and Cassandra Corbin, Divine Auto Glass, Brian Morris of Ugly Pools, Ty Cranmore of Cranmore Flooring, Pat Hickey of Peoria Ford, Midwest Food Bank, and again, Chris Lucidi, who opened his facility and put up with the gangs of people that were there. This is just truly an amazing city that opens its heart and its pocketbooks and its time clock to serve people less fortunate than we ourselves may be. I also want to thank Final Discount across the street. They donated thousands of dollars worth of toys and clothing, and that's just who we are here in Peoria. That's just what we do. We put out that extra effort. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. And there were so many to thank. You guys did it, the police, the fire, the other Rotary and other groups that just helped people so much during that, what might not have been a very happy season for some of them. So with that, I'll be done.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Leone.
Yes, thank you. I just want to congratulate all those young kids who, in the Constitution, it was just great to see them all up here and keep this event going. And the one who won the big money, you know, put it away and don't let your parents get a hold of it. Anyway, I went to an event today with the police department, and it's always great to see them get promotions and move on to different districts. I want to congratulate them and I know they're going to do great and keep the good work up. The other thing is I want to say is that we have Park West, and if you haven't gone to Park West yet, try it out. I think it's great, and you can buy a lot of good vegetables, fruits, and a lot of vendors there. Thank you. Have a great day. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. Youth Council Liaison Gathtrost. Gastrost.
Well, just so you don't get it confused, it's Gaytrist.
Thank you.
It's okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to congratulate all the constitutional contest winners and say thank you to those who applied and participated too. Congratulations to Michael Finn and Vicky Hunt, and hope you guys will like your guys' spots. January 3rd, as Maylee said, we had tours of the water treatment plant, the Butler plant, and the new Peoria Police Department. It was a very educational journey. I hope you all had wonderful holidays. This new year, my family and I always say, new me, new you, new us, as our city is constantly evolving with new businesses, families, and new adventures. This year, I encourage you to take the time to make a difference in a positive direction, whether it may be random acts of kindness or being involved with our community. Thank you.
Thank you. That is very kind of you. And it is 2018. Shocking to me that the years just keep zooming by. You know, we've received a lot of accolades in the past, safest city, best place to find a job. There's a lot of designations that we've been given that are really well-deserved for sure. But I just want to make a commitment to all of our citizens that you understand that as we continue to grow and grow and grow, we will constantly adhere to the principles that have brought us to where we are today, and that is fiscal responsibility, safe community, safe neighborhoods, and caring for our citizens first and foremost. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.